here on behalf of the Carnival, celebrating what makes us human. I've got an intimate interview with former Independent MP Taito Phillip Field in regards of life after prison, his thoughts on TPPA, as well as the current government of National, and also what's there in regards of Labour for 2017 elections. Stay tuned for more, and thanks for watching.
Oh, it's been fine. The Lord has been good, and so our focus at the moment is really the belief in God and serving, giving, doing the things that He gives direction for us to do. We keep the Sabbath, and apart from that, we've been travelling a fair bit to Israel. I took 23 people to Israel recently, last year. And to South Korea, as well as travelling to Australia and Samoa in terms of developments in Samoa. Some of the lands that we have in Samoa we're looking to develop. So we've been busy with that sort of thing. And but we're really settled in and enjoying ourselves, particularly focusing on family and our children, grandchildren.
Awesome, thank you for your comments, Taito. So in regards, I'm quite in awe just actually be sitting in your home there, because I've always admired your work, doing stuff for Mangere. I had family here in Mangere a couple of years ago and whatnot. Yeah. So seeing you now, are you still involved more towards community-wise, like within your area of Mangere and so forth, or you just...
Well, yeah, pretty much. I have a lot of people still come and talk. Some people turn up here with their issues and some advice, even political candidates for the National Party and for the Conservative Party in the last few elections. The last two elections, I've had people turn up here. So, I've been giving some advice to them. But clearly, my experience is that they really need to focus not on the issues, but really focus on what I believe to be right morally. As far as I'm concerned, were totally false, and I've maintained my innocence right through. But I believe that in my case it was politically motivated from the highest level, because I opposed certain ungodly legislation that was being put through the Parliament, and the politicians who were involved in that process are well aware of my history in the Parliament and opposition to those ungodly legislation. I'm talking about the pushing of gay rights, homosexual marriages, gay marriages, civil unions, legalization of prostitution, the anti-smacking legislation, which all goes against the Word of God, which is very much the way that our people see life, is their belief in their Christian values, their belief in God and belief in the Bible, the Word of God. And so what I saw was happening in the Labour Party at the time was a portrayal of those values and beliefs of Pacific people. And yet without the vote of Pacific people, the Labour Party would never be in government. And also the Christian community in the Maori, because the Maori and Pacific votes are critical for any Labour Party to get into government. So I saw that as a major portrayal of our people's values by a woman professing to be, at that time, in the position of Prime Minister, but very much portraying those values. So I opposed her legislative program, and that's really the genesis of what happened in my case. Was a political move to remove me because I was a threat to that legislative program and to the ideals that she wanted to lead the country down. So, people one day will get the full story, but just to inform you, and our Pacific communities, that I've always been loyal to helping them, but also to stand for their Christian values. About the promotion of God's true Sabbath, which is the seventh day. The Bible is quite clear in relation to the Sabbath, God's true Sabbath. So those are the activities that I've been involved in, not only here in New Zealand, but in other parts of the Pacific. And to some extent taking those people to Israel so that they can see, does the Israelites still keep God's seventh day, Sabbath, Saturday? The whole of Israel and Jerusalem comes to a stop in observance of the Sabbath in Israel. And I wanted to show out some of people that I took the evidence of that the Israelites continue to observe God's Sabbath in the way that, well, not exactly in the way, but certainly it's evidence of what God gave to Moses in terms of the Ten Commandments, and particularly in relation to the fourth commandment. But yeah, my thoughts are really towards serving the Lord. But if in fact politics is, you know, I get led into politics again, whether involvement in New Zealand or involvement in Samoa, that's fine with me too. You know. And I have been, because I have, you know, been giving people advice, people that have political aspirations in the National Party and the other party, not so much the Labour Party, because as you can appreciate, we created the Pacific Party to really bring about the demise of a Labour government because of that betrayal of our people's values.
And do you feel like there should be a Pacific Party?
Yes, there should be. There should be, because as you can see that the Maori Party has been successful in the interests of Maori people. In the same way, we should use our political vote as a leverage to gain the interests of our own people, because there's never been better representation or arena than the Pacific people representing themselves. And if it's a Pacific vehicle, then I think that's a more effective way, in the same way that the Maori Party has been. But on the other hand, you know, the reality is in the MMP system, it's really every vote counts. The genesis of what happened to me, I believe, started from that dispute when I stood up against the anti-Christian and ungodly position that the Labour Party government took on that day. And it proved to be right, because I knew that by the reaction. I was quite surprised with the respect that was shown to me by the boys, because a lot of them were Māori and Pacific boys, you know, even some of the murderers and you know, considered to be, you know, top level criminals. I mixed with these people, and I was quite surprised with the level of support and respect they gave to me. Some of the boys that came to me for help with their, you know, just advice and their parole, you know, application for parole and that sort of thing. So I used to help them, the boys out. But I would really get into the spiritual side with them, you know. And we had quite a good Bible and Bible fellowship studies with the men there. And some of the people that came in from outside the prison were very good at, so, you know, that was, I saw as part of, I focused in for 2 years, was to try and give these guys really a moral insight, you know, and to change their lives. And prison wasn't really a place for them, you know, and to encourage them to you know, to stay on the straight and narrow when they get out, not to come back in.
Thanks, Taito. So in regards of that Tyler, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, what a whirlwind for you, obviously. You shared with me some other things. So have you heard from them or anyone from the community in regards?
Yeah, interesting. I had some Thai people turn up with flowers, you know, and, you know, when I go out, and I said to them, listen, I'm not supposed to see you guys, that's the condition, so I shooed them away. But the reality is that those people were like extended family. They formed a Thai branch. They were part of my organisation. For the authorities to turn it into, again, something that it never was. These people, they turned what they frightened these people to say that they gave us a discount. Well, that discount was in their brains, not mine. I certainly wasn't explained to how much discount I received. So how the authorities could turn something that's contained in the brain of a Thai person because they said they gave us a discount, and then turn that discount, exaggerate the discount into something of great value, and then call it a bribe. It's just, it's redefining bribery to something that it never was. And so that's how ridiculous the whole thing was. But through legal maneuverings and legal wordings, coaching by the police, and a court case that, unfortunately, simple, innocent people who are appointed as jurors, they were easily deceived by all these fabricated evidence.
So, in regards of mea lofa, can you tell us why is it so significant in your case?
Well, the lafo is a mea lofa. It's part of our culture. And every Samoan person and most Tongan people and most Pacific people understand that that is about our culture and our ways. So as a member of parliament, I'm part of the community, I'm part of that culture. So when they present a fine mat, they usually give a mea lofa or a gift of money in an envelope.
Oh, thanks. Yes.
Now, the Prime Minister also receives things like that, these people are well aware of it, but you see, they corrupted that and twisted it so that it turned it into something that never was. They called it a bribe when in fact it wasn't. And the Māori have the koha. But you see, it was about a political outcome they wanted. So all the gays in the media, gays in the justice system, gays in the police, and there's no doubt that in fact they were politically motivated. That's including the Commissioner of Police and the judicial system. And so there, it became appeasing those in power that determined their promotion, determined who would become judges, who would become the Commissioner of Police. Their promotion was very much a part of this in appeasing the political powers that were at play at that time. And so the Prime Minister's political position was made clear to these public servants. And so the outcome was made clear.
And obviously,
and so they used anything in the media. It was like a media frenzy to try and paint a picture that in fact was false in the end. And so a lot of the evidence was fabricated, exaggerated, so that they could get the outcome they wanted. And, we see this, all they proved to me was their own dishonesty and corruption. And so, and understand is what it's done is totally irreparable in terms of the damage to this nation. There was a reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by God, because it completely corrupted the proper ordination of what God established as a foundation for family, for a godly family, for godly community, society, and nation. And what they've dealt with in terms of gay marriages is totally destroy that foundation. And that brings, as the Word of God says, a curse, not a blessing to this nation. And that's why the Labour Party is suffering in its demise right now. Because people are beginning to wake up that what it's done is irreparable. And I would be very surprised if they're able to get back into power for a very long time, if ever.
What do you think about the current leader, Andrew Little? Do you think he's doing enough for Labour?
He just hasn't got it. He's not really a politician. He's probably a nice union official, but that's about it. I just can't see how they're going to come back from the wilderness. And I think it's also New Zealand sees the Labour Party as basically a party of gays, of homosexuality, and that sort of thing. They're peripheral, not mainstream anymore. He's a great politician. I think people should really support him as an alternative, really. Because he's been loyal to the values, Christian values of this nation. He's been loyal to the interests of New Zealand. And so I really think he's the real opposition, really, not Labour.
And with the TPPA, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know the government is painting it as some great benefit for New Zealand, but I can't see it happening in America. We've already seen statements in opposition by Clinton and by Trump, so I can't see the way forward at the moment with these potential leaders in America speaking against the TPP.
And what do you think with this whole referendum about changing the flag? Should we have a new flag?
Well, I understand where John P is coming from. We need to cut the umbilical cord and then remove union because it recalls New Zealand's colonial days. We need to, I think his thinking is to lead forward really as an independent nation, no longer tied to the motherland of Britain. And you've got, the Governor General still the representative of the Queen. So I think it's a process they're really looking towards the future in terms of removing our colonial ties. But the problem is that you've got a Treaty of Waitangi, which is the founding document of this nation. And that's a deal primarily done by the indigenous people and the Crown of England.
Are you surprised that they'd even put forward the Tino Rangatira flag as one of the choices?
Yeah, well, genuinely it's part of our heritage as indigenous people. They're the first people of the land. But I think there's a need to recognise that we need to resolve our problems and move forward together as a people. And ultimately that's where the wisdom may lie, is to move forward together and resolve our problems of history and move forward together as a nation.
And speaking about moving forward, should people be mindful of where you'll be in future? Will we see you more in the public eye in the next upcoming months, or probably the elections next year?
Oh, I'm getting old now, so I'll be looking at really what's going to provide the means of promoting family and children, and also I have an interest in that religious vision for Samoa and for New Zealand. That's where I'll be probably.
And of course, I always get a comment then, what's your one phrase that you want people to know that don't know much about you? Is there a phrase?
I guess it's loyalty. Loyalty to what I stand for. Loyalty to my beliefs. And nobody should be able to take that away from you. And I made a stand for that, for the beliefs of our people. And I think I've been loyal to why I stood for Parliament in the first place. And that is to focus on the issues of justice for working people.